long time ago who was saying when I had an aneurysm, he kept saying, is it congenital or is it environmental? And I said, I don't care. You just get it done. He said, you know what your problem is, Senator? I said, no. He said, you're a congenital optimist. But I am. I'm an American. That's why I'm a congenital optimist. So look, I really mean it. We can do anything. Jobs that pay good wages and respect workers' rights. Communities that come to life around investments. Families that can envision a future with an opportunity, just as my dad would say, just give them a little bit of breathing room.
Janet Yellen has released a new big statement on President Biden's relief package. Officials have confirmed that millions will be receiving a direct relief payment very soon, and the stimulus is available for full-time residents of Colorado who have filed their 2021 tax returns by May 31st. According to a news release, approximately 3 million Colorado residents are eligible for the rebate. The Senate president said that Coloradans are up against high rates of inflation and the rising cost of living, and they're feeling the pinch. This year, they were able to extend much-needed support to families and individuals in the form of direct relief for taxpayers. We're helping Coloradans make ends meet during this challenging time and putting money directly into their wallets. The legislation designed to help Coloradans combat the rising cost of everyday necessities is going to provide $400 for a single filer. The state's strong economic rebound, which includes more than 100% recovery rate of jobs lost during the crisis and a 4% unemployment rate, has led to a record state surplus. The surplus will be returned to taxpayers in several ways, and the first of these is a reduction in the income tax rate, a senior homestead exemption, the Colorado dividend, and a 6-tiered sales tax rebate for next year. That is really awesome news, everybody, for you that live in Colorado. Over 70% of Americans disapprove of President Biden's handling of inflation and gas prices, indicating that economic security remains a high priority for the voting population. According to a new ABC poll, as of June 4th, 71% say they're unsatisfied with Biden's efforts to curb inflation, and 72% said the same for gas prices. Now, Biden's approval rating has been sinking for months, dropping to the lowest level of his presidency in late May at 39%. According to recent polls, satisfaction with his leadership has been declining for the last year of his tenure in office. While many issues have plagued Biden's administration, economic uncertainty and consumer purchasing power seem to be contributing to most Americans' negative outlook. Now, U.S. Treasury Secretary issued an official statement this week rebutting claims made in a book that she initially wanted to trim President Biden's bill by a third. Janet Yellen has denied claims that she wanted Biden to scale back the size of his $1.9 trillion relief package last year, over fears it could choke inflation. Like Yellen said, I never urged adoption of a smaller American Rescue Plan package, and I believe the American Rescue Plan played a central role in driving strong growth throughout 2021 and afterwards.
Poised to seize the future. Everybody, the press always asks me, why am I so optimistic with the way things are? Take a look at all these young folks. They're the best educated. They're the most generous. They're the people who have done the most. They're ready to volunteer, and they're the least prejudiced folks in the world. It's a new generation, and that's an underpinning. It gives me an enormous sense of, and I mean this sincerely, an enormous sense of optimism. We have everything we need right here in the Western Hemisphere, not only to point ourselves toward a future that is more prosperous, secure, and democratic, but the ability to achieve it as well. And for all of you are essential to making sure we get to this place we have to get to. You know, the private sector is able to move quickly, to mobilize vast amounts of investment capital that are going to be needed to unlock the enormous potential for growth in this hemisphere, in the region. And when we combine the ability of government to direct economic activity towards specific challenges, to help mitigate risk, guard against unfair practices, and create predictable demand with the agility of the private sector, I believe we can deliver real improvement for people's lives. I really believe it. You know, just my wife often reminds me that I had a doctor who, along
from Texas, Mr. Arrington, to inquire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary. Prior to COVID, after tax reform and regulatory relief, we as a nation experienced unprecedented economic prosperity. All boats rose on the tide of that prosperity. We had the lowest unemployment in decades. We had the lowest poverty rate in the history. Jobs, we were hitting on all cylinders. COVID hits. But today, after 18 months of this administration, I believe that this administration has sown the wind of reckless economic policies and the American people have reaped the whirlwind of economic pain. The spending spree that lit a fire on inflation that has consumed every American, every worker, consumed their wages, consumed their purchasing power, consumed their livelihoods. Irresponsible unemployment policies, welfare without work requirements, reasonable stuff that wouldn't trap and sideline labor so small businesses who were trying to get up on their feet after COVID could survive. But they couldn't hire anybody, Madam Secretary. Supply chain turmoil, farmers couldn't get tractor parts, the fuel costs, the fertilizer just completely running away from them. Repeated warnings from Democrat economists like Larry Summers and Jason Furman, the San Francisco Fed, even the nonpartisan CBO said, don't do it, don't do it. And the Democrat, my colleagues, and your administration supported a partisan spending spree, this spending bill, not a single Republican supported it, that has been disastrous. And it has put us in a tailspin, and I pray we recover from it. But you would have to relent in the administration from the current policies. At the center of all this, Madam Secretary, of this self-inflicted economic disaster is an energy crisis that is pummeling working families, it's pummeling every American consumer. And I've heard the blame game. I've heard the pandemic. It's Vladimir Putin. It's corporate greed. No, the runaway prices at the pump are just as self-inflicted, because I have never seen a whole-of-government assault on an industry like I've seen from this administration. With all due respect, it is unbelievable that an industry that has blessed our country with safe and affordable and clean supply of energy, the lifeblood of the greatest economy in the world, and does it better and more environmentally friendly than anybody in the world, and there is a relentless assault, and we wonder why the prices are completely out of control at the pump. And then you got this Treasury Green Book with $45 billion in punitive taxes on that industry. This after the litany of things, canceling pipelines, more regulations. When you tax and regulate something, you get less of something. You get less of something vis-a-vis demand, consumers are going to pay more. My question is, instead of going to Saudi Arabia, will this administration, will you and the president commit to coming to West Texas? Because this president hasn't set foot near any oil and gas facility, not production, not refining.